Piatt. We are going to look at this Saturday, November 23rd. We've got the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada, hooking up with Fox to bring us pay-per-view action. Big heavyweight activity going on as WBC World Heavyweight Champion Deontay Wilder, 41-0-1, takes on nemesis Luis Ortiz. Ortiz 31-1, the lone loss on his career to Wilder, but he hasn't gone away. And here he is back. He's getting another crack at it. A lot of people criticizing Wilder for taking this fight, risking the big payday against Tyson Fury that we've sort of been promised for next year. So a lot to take in. Obviously, anytime we've got the World Heavyweight Champion, there's a lot. And this one has even more bells and whistles and storylines. So, ASP, take it away. Where do you want to start? Wilder and Ortiz, how are you looking at this fight compared to the first one?
I mean, this is good. It's an interesting fight. On the one hand, if you look at Deontay Wilder coming at a negative 650 on this one, New Ortiz is a plus 475. That's just the straight money line. If you get into picking a knockout, we'll get into that later. Stick around for the end of the show, folks. I've got some sort of little micro bets that I've got picked, some $5 and $10 bets that can turn into, $200 or $400 for you on $5 and $10. So we'll explain those later. But if you look at, on the one hand, if you look at Deontay, folks, he's fought twice. Bermain Stiverne fought him the first time, unanimous decision. That was the only fight that Wilder's won that wasn't a knockout. He's 41-0-1 with 40 knockouts. He didn't knock out Stiverne the first time. He did the second time, though. So he improved the second time. So you look at that and you say, well, is he going to improve against Ortiz? Possibly. I don't think that the same sort of level with Ortiz. I think he's sort of leveled up from Stiverne. The first matchup, Wilder did get hurt in the 7th round. I mean, he had a little bit more time or a little more umph or a couple of punches that connected but weren't absolutely solid, but still rocked Wilder. I think Ortiz might have won that fight. So this is going to be a great fight, a very interesting fight. I'm going to call Wilder to knock him out in the 9th, but I'm going to dog watch Ortiz for a KO in the 6th. So for me on the betting lines, it had to do with just call the knockout, which gives you a little bit more than the plus 475, gave me plus 550. And we'll explain that at the end of the podcast here. But yeah, Wilder, if I'm straight up, but with the odds, I like Ortiz for an underdog at between plus 475 and plus 550. It's going to be a heck of a fight. I don't like the fight for Wilder if I was his manager. I mean, you look at what Anthony Joshua's had to deal with Ruiz. I mean, we had a clear top 3. We had Wilder and Tyson and Anthony Joshua, and it was a clear top 3. Now Joshua's lost, and he's trying to fight his way back in. Imagine Deontay losing this fight. Does that mean we've expanded the top 3 to a top 5 with Ortiz and Ruiz? Well, maybe, but it sure muddles up the whole picture as far as super fights go. You've got to reclaim belts back from guys that maybe aren't at that elite level, or at least at the level that would draw the type of crowd and pay-per-view numbers and whatnot. So look, he was going to get criticized if he picked a bum, and now he's getting criticized because he picked Ortiz, who stumbled him. So maybe Wilder can't win for losing. Maybe they should have got their shit together, and he should be fighting Tyson again right now. But it is a scary fight for him.
Yeah, I mean, from Wilder's perspective, he has to feel right? He has to feel some level of confidence that I'll be able to do better. I'll improve on my performance. I know him now. I felt I took everything he had, and I'm still here, sort of thing. So you can see it now, obviously, taking the fight, psychologically, you kind of got to, be confident, right? So, but at the end of the day, it's not Tom Schwartz across the ring from you. It's not some of the other guys that have been selected, including Andy Ruiz. Ruiz is a very solid boxer and had a strong resume, but some inactivity and stuff like that. Ruiz, was definitely considered a lesser opponent for Joshua. Ortiz is a guy who's really a top 5, top 8 heavyweight at this point. So you do have to consider Wilder he's taking a little bit more of a risk. Now, that's a lot, in boxing. Whenever somebody takes a risk, people start to pay attention, right? So now here he's getting criticized for taking a relatively hard fight, but because at the same time it also should be a winnable fight. And I think the sport books are telling us that he's a 7-1 favorite. So that kind of tells you at the end of the day, it's Ortiz who's probably going to be walking away with a second loss, no matter how good it looks on paper. So we're going to see what we get this weekend. It's finally here. The other factor of you're playing odds and stuff like that. How do you play into this? You mentioned you had a clear top three, right? And we already had one of those big underdogs break through and have that happen. What are the chances that that's going to happen a second time? That they're going to catch lightning in a bottle again, So all these things play. It's different guys and stuff. All these things play in come into play, especially if you're numbers people and are looking for a factor here. Because if not, it's a rematch. We saw the first match. You're picking him in the 9th round, so that would be an improvement on round 11 where he stopped it. Wilder just has to avoid getting hurt, and he should be okay. I give Wilder the credit that he may have been losing the first Ortiz fight, being outboxed on the judges' cards. I don't think that'll be the case this time. I think he'll combine a little bit more activity with a little bit more, of the pressure. And, one thing that would benefit Wilder greatly here would be if he could break through and hurt Ortiz earlier than he did last time.
That's right. Absolutely.
Heading down the rest of the card here, and we'll get back to that main card to review some of ASP's other bets here. But we've got a WBC silver title in the bantamweight division, and we got Luis Nery taking on Emmanuel Rodriguez. How do you look at this one?
It's a pretty interesting fight too. Rodriguez 19-1. His one loss was a knockout. He's at a plus 390. He's got an active lead left. He hooks to the body a lot in the head. He sort of does a double punch. He'll come down to the ribs and then up to the head, and it looks nice. It does leave him open for opponents' right punch to Rodriguez's head. And so that factors in a minute when we talk about Nery. He's won against Jason Moloney. That was a split decision. Actually exposed Rodriguez. He won the fight, but it exposed him and showed that he was open to the right cross and uppercuts. So then he fights Inoue, and he gets knocked out in the second round. He did what Moloney just barely failed to do, which was knock down and knock out Rodriguez. Right hand followed by a left hook. It's the right hand that you can stun Rodriguez with. You can finish with the left. You can finish with the right uppercut, different things. But it's the right hand that's most likely to stun Rodriguez. When you look at Nery, he's got a strong right. He punches in bunches. He's got a good head and shoulder defense. His drawback, maybe he swings a little too wide at certain times. So, I mean, if he's got a guy really stumbled, you can afford to swing wide and throw that extra power in there. But if he swings wide like that, I think somebody can maybe exploit it. So some of your other bantamweight fighters might get around to exploiting Nery at 30-0 with 24 KOs. I don't think Emmanuel Rodriguez is the guy that's going to exploit Nery's weaknesses, though. I'm going to call this one Nery KO-5. And really, I don't see any bets in it other than, as we'll explain at the end, I went ahead and picked the knockout rounds for all of these fighters. At a negative 490, there's really no money to be made on Nery. But I got a fun little $5 bet I'll explain at the end of the podcast. Stick around for that. Nery, knockout in 5 is my prediction.
Okay, and fair enough there. It's still for the silver title, so that's not a world title fight. But the other two fights that are on the main pay-per-view card expected are world title fights. Now we're looking at the super bantamweights. We've got Brandon Figueroa. He's the undefeated belt holder, taking on veteran Julio Ceja. Ceja 32-4. A lot of fights heading into Saturday's world title action. How do you see this one?
Yeah, Ceja, last 6 fights, he's 3-3. Okay, they've all been title fights, but as you mentioned, the silvers, some of them are the minor silver title fights. But they have all been title fights of some sort or another. 3-3. He lost to Manzanilla. His last loss was to Guillermo Rigondeaux. and he fought June of this year, Rigondeaux. Rigondeaux, who we thought maybe was done after Lomachenko brutalized him, but he's come back and looked pretty good against some opponents, including Ceja. Now his win was by Hugo Riaz. He won by TKO, but then the very next fight he lost to Hugo Riaz by TKO, and actually in the first round too. So you knock a guy out and he comes back and knocks you out. So I don't know that Ceja is on the up and up coming still at 32-4 with three of those losses, three of his four losses being knockouts. I don't know if it's a desire thing or the step up in competition or training's not been right. But he's been, he's rematched a guy that he knocked out and then got knocked out by him. It's sort of suspect, especially going against Brandon Figueroa, the younger brother of Omar Figueroa, by the way, another, champion. He's a rising star. He's fought mainly Mexican fighters in his career, which is sort of a weight class reality and geography. He fights out there and he'll go south of the border to fight. A lot of super bantamweights, Mexican fighters. So he should be used to the scrappy style of Ceja. Figueroa's got a long, stiff jab. He can keep distance for Brandon. But strangely enough, he likes to get on the inside and bang away. So he can sort of get you on the outside with just the reach is just incredible on this guy. But then when he gets inside, he's better than you would think he would be for a long-armed guy. He's got the angles and the speed and the positioning to make it work. He switches stances, so moving from the outside to the inside is a little bit easier for a guy that can switch positions, go orthodox or unorthodox. Possible issue, he's 5'9", almost 5'10". He's got to cut a lot of weight to fight at super bantamweight. So, yeah, it's good if he cuts that weight and he comes in healthy because he's got a bigger frame and he's got a lot of muscle. But I'm afraid one of these times he's going to be exhausted from trying to cut weight, dehydrated, and it may cause an upset for him at some point. So I think Brandon should move up in weight because of his size, his frame, his height. But I'm still going to call him a knockout in round 5 on this one. I don't think the weight issues will get to him on this particular fight. But I am concerned for that if he keeps trying to fight as a nearly 5'10" guy with broad shoulders at super bantamweight.
He's still just 22 years old, and, the weight cut, it gets harder as you get older, so he's still in territory where you can test yourself. You take the example of Inoue, who we mentioned a little bit ago, and Inoue actually skipped the flyweight weight class on his way up. He went right from light flyweight to super flyweight, never went back and looked forward. Figueroa may be big enough that, he is going to be moving up one way or another at some point, to elongate his career. It's the popular thing to do in boxing nowadays anyway, to amass world championships in various weight classes. This may be his last fight at this weight class, and then we'll see him move up. I agree with you. But at 22 years old, I don't think the weight cutting will rear its ugly head as an issue this fight, but something that, he's already sort of been earmarked for, to play the game of hopping up a weight class.
Yep.
Now, as we continue on down the card, and we got a couple of promoters, Leonard Ellerby and Tom Brown, hooking up to make this card happen. You got, if you're anywhere near Las Vegas, obviously at the MGM Grand, try to get to the live card. You got 10 or 12 fights on the live show there, and I don't know how you sit through all that. They become long shows and stuff, but if you're a boxing diehard, nothing like live boxing and stuff. The world title fights at the end, the last of the world title fights, we got, to me, he's probably fought his way back into a top 10 pound for pound ranking here. And I'm talking about Leo Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz, the WBA super title holder at super featherweight. And he's 36-1-1. He's taking on Miguel Flores here in this one, in a fight that sees, at the sport books anyway, that sees them giving Flores very little chance.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Flores at a plus 2,500, Leo Santa Cruz at a negative 5,000. Let's look at Flores real quick. 24-2-2. Both of his losses have been knockouts, which is both good and bad. It means that he's a pretty good boxer, but he's got some chin issues. He's not really been tested, though. He's lost to average fighters. Datwin was 19-3 with only 5 knockouts out of his 22 fights when he knocked out Flores. 3 fights ago, he was knocked out by Chris Avalos in round 5. Now, I want to really point that out and hear what I'm saying here. 3 fights ago, both of these guys just 3 fights ago fought the same guy. Leo knocked him out. Miguel got knocked out. So that plays in to my call. I want to say Leo Santa Cruz has lost just once to Carl Frampton, majority decision. His very next fight was a rematch against Carl Frampton, and he won by majority decision. And he's beat Abner Mares twice as well. So my prediction on this one, with all the things added in, is Santa Cruz knockout 4th round.
And Santa Cruz is the all-world guy. He's on the pound-for-pound list, and he's the guy, he's probably got big money fights in the making that, pay him more than his Flores fight. So here he's getting, the ring work in and, getting his star power on the card. Like I said, you got a lot of fights scheduled for the MGM Grand this Saturday night, November 23rd. The feature fights, 3 world title fights, and a meaningful silver title fight at Bantamweight. All will be on Fox pay-per-view. I've been joined here by my man Anthony Scott Piatt to make picks, and now we're going to look at some new stuff. A little ad here to the Wage Rage podcast here, because with the sport books opening up in the United States and laws changing, all over the place, ASP did find a local sports book where he can access his computer and stuff, but it is a sport book based out of Indiana where he's from, and that gives you some different results and things. And, we're going to ask some questions about this book in specifics and maybe rate books later on down the line. But what this book does is it also has, a wide array of prop bets that are already up for this weekend. And prop bets really allow you to isolate, things like, who's going to win in what round? Are they going to win by knockout? If you think it's a knockout, pick the round of the knockout. And you can take a bet where it doesn't look like it's a good bet to make money. If you can somehow narrow it down, it'll be early. Maybe you put a couple bucks down on rounds 2, 3, 4. One of them hits, boom, you've actually made money. I'm going to let ASP take it away and explain the system to you. A lot of people already obviously on top of it, but since the sport books are new and popping up all over the place, it's always good to start from scratch for the noobs so that they get off on the right track here. ASP, take it away.
Absolutely. We've got varying odds on Nery, Ceja, and Santa Cruz from -490 to -380 to -5,000. And I mean, if you put $100 on a -5,000, I think you're making about 50 cents or something. I mean, it's just absolutely worthless. But if we turn that around, I've simply taken $5, something I can afford to lose, and I'm calling the round that I've said the fellas are going to knock them out in. These are fun to watch. I get together with my buddies and watch him, and boy, if he knocks them out in that round, as Chisora did in round 4 a while back, we sort of hedged on that one. We bet $5 on round 3, $10 on round 4, and $5 on round 5. We were lucky and hit the round 4 just like we had hoped for. And that wasn't a plus 1,100 payoff. So we made, 110 off of the bet, off of our $10 bet. So what I've done here is I can bet Louis Nery $5 on round 5 and add a plus 1,000. That gives me $55. Same deal with Figueroa, $5, round 5 as well, plus 1,000. $55. Now you'll remember that they were around the -400s, and Leo Santa Cruz is a -5,000. But calling Santa Cruz round 4 knockout, my $5 is still worth a plus 900. The others were plus 1,000. He's still worth plus 900. So my 5 becomes 50, even on Santa Cruz, who's a much more favored fighter. So you change those odds from really bad odds to decent odds. Now those are not super likely to happen, but for $5, it's a great sort of, you know, prop bet, as you say. And then on the main one, you mentioned, you know, I'm calling Deontay Wilder in round 9 if I have to pick it, but I think Ortiz has a puncher's chance. And so what I've done is the same sort of thing. For $5 on rounds 5, 6, and 7. So I'm basically calling Ortiz in round 6 as a dog watch. I'm not calling it, but I'm saying if I was going to put some money on it, that's what I would do. So the 5, 10, and $5 on there, you get plus 4,000 for Ortiz, because being the underdog instead of the favorite, he's not as likely to knock him out. So you get that plus 4,000. So a $10 bet on those gets you $400 back for just a $10 bet. So I really like that. And then I was also able to get plus 550 on Ortiz knocking him out. Either KO, TKO, or DQ in any round is also worth plus 550. So a $10 bet there gets you a $60 win plus your 10 back, $70 back. So we've kind of played around with that a little bit. It's the plus 4,000s that I'm really excited about. If Ortiz can pull off the upset and knock him out in, you know, in say like the 6th round, then I'm looking at gosh, 400, $500 or $600 if Ortiz knocks him out in the 5th round, and I'm only betting 5, 10, 15, $25, and I could win 600 off of $25, and I'm picking.
Then you have 3 shots at it. Really.
Favorite, and on that one, I'm picking a pretty solid underdog. Like I said, this is a risky fight for Wilder. Ortiz has got a puncher's chance. Wilder knocks everybody out, and so does Ortiz primarily. And anytime you're trying to knock the other guy out, what does that mean? You're swinging punches. If you're swinging punches, your fists aren't back protecting you. They're out there trying to go on the offense. You can do offense or defense. If you're an offensive-minded guy and you're trying to knock a guy out, he can knock you out. That's the nature of boxing. So let's hope Wilder comes out and boxes for a while. Ortiz can get something going. If he can rock him earlier in the round than he did last time, maybe he can finish him. It'd be not likely, but just enough likely that I got a little bit of money on it, $5 and $10 here and there. Nothing that's going to break my bank, but if I win off of it, it makes a difference.
Well, and not only that, but you know, obviously you want to make money. That's the goal, and everything, and that's, you know, the bottom line. Everything else is just bells and whistles. But as far as bells and whistles, and you talk about, you know, the experience, having some buddies over and this, that, and the other thing, you know, watching round, you know, if you had the $5 bet in round 7 for, you know, the last fight, and you know, it had similar odds. You put your $5 in, you're going to make, you know, $300 back. That makes for some fun viewing. You know what I mean? It really ups the experience there. And, you know, every once in a while you are going to break through and hit. As you mentioned, the Chisora fight, what you're referring to is Chisora taking on David Price. Price, notorious, you know, as a once talented bronze medalist who's, you know, athleticism kind of abandoned him in his older age. And, you know, notorious for having some knockouts where he's just been absolutely flattened. So it wasn't too much of a reach to think that he might be knocked out. And you'd notice that they all came in early. So why not? You know, bets round 3, 4, and 5, just see if he goes. And boom, there it happened in round 4. So it's something where you apply a little bit of the knowledge that you have in a sport. You know, you obviously always count Lady Luck, but with these other options there, you can really – you know, select some spots where you can maximize your winnings.
Absolutely. And we've taken, you know, $25 basically and ran it up to a pretty good number in our account there. So we're up to $900 or something at this point. So it's been a pleasure. Miguel, I may have lost Miguel, but thanks for everyone for being with us. This is ASP. That's Miguel Iturrate. I'm coming to you from Indiana. He's coming to you from Costa Rica. This has been the Cage Rage podcast, Wage Rage version, and we'll catch you next time. Appreciate you joining us. Like it, subscribe, do all the good stuff, would you? YouTube, Facebook, we appreciate you. Till next time.